Welcome to The Writer's Dream. This is a show where authors can talk about how they write their books, how they publish them, and how they market them. You can find us on YouTube. Just look for my name, Linda Maria Frank. I'm the author of Annie Tillery Mysteries and other things. We are also on Facebook. On Facebook, we are The Writer's Dream. If you wish to be on the show, you can message me through Facebook. We are on Cablevision, Channel 20 on Thursdays at 2:30. So we're all over the place. And if you are interested in local Long Island writers, or you are a reader who is interested in, in just getting some good books, or you're a writer and you're interested in writing tips, go to the YouTube channel. There's over 100 interviews. You're bound to find something useful. Today's guest is Elaine Donadio, and Elaine has written a series. She is a kindred spirit to me. She's also a teacher, or was a teacher before she retired, and she wrote the Montgomery School Kids books. And we're going to talk about that series, but we're going to concentrate on the latest one, which is called March of the Blue Moon. So Elaine, tell us about March of the Blue Moon.
Well, thank you very much, Linda, for inviting me to join you today. I wrote this book, March of the Blue Moon, because I wanted to resolve some issues for my character, my main character, Nestor, and I wanted to reunite him with his father. In my first book of the series, The Science Project, Nestor was very confused. He started out, he was having a bad year in school, 11 years old, 7th grade, having a tough time, feeling very inadequate, very low self-esteem, and he was always acting out. His father had left to go to Alaska from New York City to find his fortune, and he and his mother hadn't heard from him in 3 months, and he was feeling very despondent. So I wanted to reunite Nestor with his father in this book. And also I wanted to build up Nestor to a point where he has confidence in himself and he has goals. So that's what this book is about. He goes to Alaska, his father calls up and asks Nestor and his mother to come to visit him in Alaska. And the mother has to work, but she's angry, and she used that maybe as an excuse. And no, I can't. I'm a nurse, and it's Easter time, and people don't want to trade vacation time with me. So no, you go and take a friend with you. So he winds up taking his friend Kwan Min Park, and Kwan Min's parents were very happy to let him go because they said, "Oh, my brother lives there. I haven't seen him in many years. You have an uncle who's a very successful businessman. Maybe he can teach you a lot of things." So the boys travel together to Alaska, and they meet Uncle Ken, who is Kwan Min's uncle, and they all get along very well. And then we find that later on in the book, why was it that Nestor's father didn't get in touch with his family? So I didn't want to make it where he had amnesia or some weird thing. That took me more than a year to come up with a reason that made sense. And it took me a long time to write this book for this, because I couldn't think of something that would make sense in today's world. And then I thought, you know what? He just was ashamed of himself. He went there to become a success, and he was a failure. And he was so ashamed that he couldn't face anybody. And it was just that simple. So he just stayed away. And now he invited his son to come, and he was able to reconnect with him, never stop loving him. But part of this story at the March of the Blue Moon, see, if we take a look at the cover, this is the Blue Moon here, and this is the flag of Alaska, and I have the lucky sevens here, the American flag and the South Korean flag. So that represents our characters, and of course they were in the wilderness of Alaska, so there were dangers there. And part of the significance of the Blue Moon is that supposedly when this happens, a blue moon is when there are 2 full moons in a month. If you are there and paying attention to this. You're supposed to be in touch with your feelings. And if you have any desires or aspirations, it's supposed to come true. The blue moon affects you, in that way. So the March of the blue moon is not only that the story takes place in March, in the month of March, but also the journey towards excellence. And as kids often are, Nestor wanted a role model. That's the way they are, but they don't look at their immediate family, and they don't look at people in their immediate realm for this. They look outside themselves. So very often they will look, to movie stars or celebrities of some type. But he, in this journey, looks at Kwon Bing's uncle as a role model, as a successful man, and also the character of Rocky, Sylvester Stallone's character. Again, someone who constantly got knocked down and kept getting up again. And he had his troubles, but he got up and brushed himself off and just kept going. Then there's Lance Mackey. He learned about Lance Mackey was one of the Iditarod greats. He won multiple races. And Lance Mackey was nobody's idea of a hero. He was an alcoholic. He was a drug addict. He dropped out of school. He couldn't keep a job. His health was so bad that he was missing teeth. He was actually an outcast in the neighborhood where he lived in Alaska, but he still was a success. He just kept going back. He did what he had to do to win these races, and he did. And then also in the book, we came across another man, Felix Pedro. Now, Felix Pedro was actually an Italian citizen who went to Alaska for the gold rush. His real name was Felice Pedrano, but he changed his name because he thought the people wouldn't be able to pronounce his real name. So he said, okay, I'm going to be called Felix Pedro. And he was, as Nestor found out, a stand-up guy. He found a lot of gold, and he could have claimed it for himself, but he didn't do that. He went and got his friends, and he brought all of them there, and they all claimed it. So everybody had a portion of this gold and of this claim. So he was known that way as a stand-up guy. As a matter of fact, there are all kinds of tributes to him. There are monuments to him. And with the city of, we just check this out here, Fairbanks, Alaska, and Fanano, Italy, are now sister cities. That was his birthplace because of the fact that this man was so revered and so respected for the way he acted and conducted himself during his discovery of this cache of gold, So, he was brought back to Italy actually to be buried. And it's a very interesting story. It turns out he was poisoned by his wife, and that's how he was killed. And his business partner, who was also one of the prospectors, kept insisting this even on his deathbed. And it turned out that they exhumed the body and found out that there was poison, in his body. And that I don't know if his wife was still alive when they figured this out or not, but it's a very interesting story. So all of these people serve to act as role models for Nestor, who decides that he is going to turn around, and he makes himself a naughty and nice list and realizes he was only nice in kindergarten and first grade, and naughty, this is relating to Christmas, of course, all the other years from first, for second grade up to seventh grade, which is his present grade. And he said that he's going to probably be nice from now on, most likely, because he's that kind of guy. He can't always commit. But he also decides that he might want to be a teacher. So he has goals. And his final message to everyone is, you have to have goals in life. GOALS. Go out and learn something. And that is his message. And at the end, when Kwon Min and Nestor are flying back to New York from Alaska, Kwon Min tells him, you know, I like the the new person that you are. The new you is really nice. You're very different from what you were when we got here a week ago. He said, I like the new Nestor a lot. And then Nestor tells him, you know something, Kwon Min? So do I. And by the way, his father does come back to New York, and they all resume their lives together, you know, happily ever after. And all of the characters, Kwon Min decides he's going to go to Alaska every summer to spend with his uncle, to learn about science and to expand his horizons, and probably make some kind of inventions to help the people who are living in Alaska and, you know, climbing mountains and whatever. His father realizes that he needs to go back to his family, and does that, and in the meantime called his old boss, who said, yes, come back, I'll give you a raise and a promotion. So he goes back to New York City. And even Kwon Min's uncle, who is a successful businessman, also changes, and he realizes, I spent too much time working, and spending time with you boys made me realize I miss my family. I want to be with them and my grandchildren. And I'm not going to do this anymore. I just hired a business manager, somebody to take over so I can go spend time with my family. So where everybody else was interested in working and expanding that part of their lives because they were younger, this man who was already successful realized that he had to include his family and keep the balance in that way.
So that you know what, one of the things I love about your books is that your characters are first of all, we were both teachers, same grade level. I spent 20 years in middle school and then moved to high school, thank God. But those kids are very transitional, and they're also very impressionable. You can still work with them. And I love the fact that your characters are multicultural. It's so obvious that you worked in New York City. and that you have an Asian and you have a Hispanic, and I think in one of the books there's an African-American child, right?
Yes, Phil Williams, yes. He's with the cocoa skin and the beautiful green eyes, yes. He's like a rock star, so handsome.
Yeah. So that, I mean, they have such appeal. I was wondering, before you talk a little bit about the other books, I was wondering if you were able to put these books in the New York City schools.
No, I was not, unfortunately. I tried, but I found out that they go to certain publishers, you know, who supply to New York City schools, and they only buy books for them. And unfortunately, I wasn't able. I got in touch with my school district, to be honest with you, you know, and asked them, can I come and show you my books? I'm from the district, and I was a reading specialist for so many years. You know, I also worked as a teacher trainer for a few years in the district, and nobody ever called me back. I'm sorry.
I had the same experience with the city schools, in that they had a project actually where they were soliciting authors to expose kids to books. They never responded. We got all the contact information and they never responded. So I don't know what the deal is there. I wonder about the New York City public libraries, whether that's worth a try.
Well, my books are in some of the libraries. I have them in 3 libraries in Queens, the Jamaica Library, which is the Central Library, Whitestone Library, and Bay Terrace Library in Bayside, and Nassau and Suffolk counties. It's in Manhasset, Port Washington, Syosset, and East Hampton Library in Suffolk County. You know,
yeah,
so.
well, that's basically what you have to do. You almost always have to. What I found out with the Nassau and Suffolk County library systems is that you can, they have to approve your book, or you have to register the book with them. And then once that happens, if people say to you, well, is your book in the library? You could say, you can go to your library branch anywhere in Suffolk or Nassau and request the book, and they have to get it for you. So that works. But marketing is the distribution is the worst thing. I think when you told me that they only buy from certain publishers, I think you're thinking they only buy from certain distributors.
Oh, probably distributed.
And what you need to do is try to get your book on Baker and Taylor
Mhm.
and Ingram, because those are the two major distributors to schools. That's where they buy their books from. So
Yeah, because I have
that's a little hint.
social studies facts in my books. They're loaded with them. And also,
Your books are great.
oh, thank you so much. It's so nice.
They have exactly everything that you want. They mix lovable characters. They struggle with values,
Mhm.
and you're teaching them along the way. These are perfect books. So tell us about the other books in the series.
Okay, we'll start out with the science project. This is my first book where we meet Nestor, and he teases. He meets Kwon Min for the first time. Kwon Min Park just came from South Korea, and he's very popular. And Nestor hates him because he said, "Why should kids like him more than like me? He just got here, and I've been here." And they like him more. Well, that's because of his behavior. So he starts acting out, and he does all kinds of things. He teases everybody, and here we see this is the science project right here. Little Hector, the cockroach, and if you can see over here, this toad is a Kwon Min science project. So they bring them to school, and
That's a dangerous combination.
onto this little guy because Kwon Min decides to take revenge for
You can turn that into a fable.
yeah, seriously. Well, also I have to show you something, just for anybody who is aspiring to become a writer. Look how thin this is my first book. Look how thin it is. And then my next book, which I'll tell you about, but then this gets thicker, you see? And then the next one gets thicker. And this one is the thickest.
Really thick.
Right. So, it's like, I guess it just gets easier, or you learn somehow to expand more things. The more you write, the more you write. And I think that's very important for a writer to become aware of, especially new writers.
Also, from a practical standpoint, the spine of your book has to be able to display the title and the author. And if it's too thin, that's one of the reasons why libraries won't take the book, because you can't see the spine. So somehow or other, you have to either make the print bigger or whatever to make the spine.
Yes, this is true. And that I was missing actually on two of these books, the Science Project and the Ocean's Way. They don't have any print, because they're too thin. And I wasn't aware of that, unfortunately, when I did this. So in the Science Project, we meet Nestor, Kwon Min, and also Phil Williams. And Phil is a year older than Nestor, and he's embarrassed. Everybody's saying to you, "Why are you friends with that kid? He's such a loser," and then he decides that he's angry with him. And in the end, they come together and they make a deal. And Nestor tells him, "Show me how to play basketball, because maybe I'll be more popular." And Phil tells him, "Yeah, well, if I do that, you're going to have to write my research papers for me." It's a lot of work. It's a lot of trouble. Because, and what you're asking me to do is a lot of trouble too. So we have a deal? Yes, we have a deal. So this is the beginning of when Nestor realizes that he has to change himself, because part of the story in here, at the science table, he's looking at the scratches on the table, and he realizes that the same way the scratches mar the surface of the table, his behavior is marring his appearance also.
Mm-hmm.
Then we get to the Ocean's Way. Now, the kids live in Queens. They all live near each other, and they walk to school together and whatever. And we have two girls also, Jasmine and Holly. Holly is the main character, Holly Cristiano and Jasmine Jankowski. They live also right near the other boys, and they win a poetry writing contest, and and a grant, and they go with Holly's mother, who is a widow, and also their science teacher, Miss Costa, and they go to South Florida to learn about the marine life in Florida, and with the intention that when they come back, they're going to do a multimedia presentation in the school, for the whole school in the auditorium. And this is everything that they learn about that also, about, and here they participate in the rescue of pilot whales that are stranded on the Gulf Coast of Florida and Crystal River area. And they have some issues, social issues here too. Jasmine's mother is an alcoholic, and she's neglectful of her and the baby sister. And also Holly's father died in Afghanistan. He was a Marine, and she misses him very much. So I don't make a big thing out of it, but it's dealt with, in the story, because the characters are related.
It's reality.
Yes, it is.
It's reality for kids.
And also they overcome fears. The girls overcome fears. Holly is afraid of public speaking. She's terrified, but she overcomes it, and she does the presentation at the end of the book. And everybody's cheering her, Holly, 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 when she goes up, to take the microphone. And she is so happy, and she's waving to everybody and loving every minute of it. And Jasmine is afraid of water. She's terrified of airplanes. And she overcomes those fears also on the way back on the airplane, but also in the water that she had to go into for, if we're learning about all of the marine life. Then when we go to the next book is Do Voodoo. Now, I'm not a proponent of voodoo. I always have to say this. It turns out it's not voodoo, but they go to New Orleans, and that's the setting. And Phil is the main character in this story. He takes Nestor with him. He's the icebreaker. His family has been estranged. The New York City family has been estranged from the New Orleans family for many years. Nobody really even knows why, actually. And he's sent there as the icebreaker. He takes Nestor with him, and they have adventure because Phil's great aunt and her husband are very wealthy, and they live in this very beautiful house in New Orleans with a housekeeper. And something is very strange, because when they show up to visit them, they keep trying to get rid of them, and Phil said, "You don't look anything like what I thought you were going to look like, because I had pictured, I know it was all wrinkled up, but you don't look like anybody in my family at all." And it turns out that I don't know how much I should say here. I'm giving away the plot, but
Give it all away.
I'll give it away. Okay.
I'll give it all away.
Okay. It turns out there's a lot of funny stuff going on. And when the boys realize this, Phil wants to be a hero. And he said, "No, we're not calling the police. I'm going to take care of it. I'm going to save my family and straighten everything out." And they're in a really precarious, dangerous situation. So, of course, they get punished when they get home to New York. They got to clean the house and stay inside for a couple of months. They're not allowed to go out. And that's what happens there in the story. So, again, all of my books, they have a lot of science and social studies facts here about the environment and everything also. And then I have two other books too that are not in this series. One is the Ocean's Way Poetry Companion that has 37 color photos with formula poems like this, with all science facts. So,
That's great.
Yeah, and this has to do with the oceans and ocean life. And then I have my other story, Sojourn into the Night, a memoir of the Peruvian rainforest, which is my non-rhyming poetic narrative about my trip to the Peruvian rainforest. And I have some photos in here also that I took, and I applied watercolor effects to them.
Bring it this way.
I don't know if I'm going the wrong way here.
Yeah, going the wrong way.
Okay.
The other way, the other way, the other wrong way. That's it. There you go. Okay. So you really have a body of work.
Too.
And, I guess I really love your 4 books, 3 books, I guess. No, 4 books.
4 books in my series.
In the Montgomery series, because I do the same thing. I have, but mine are mysteries for a little older crowd, not much older. And same thing, a lot of science, a lot of history. You have to sneak in the facts and the learning any way possible. And I think you've done it in a very charming way. So we have about a minute left. So what's next?
Okay. Well, I think I'm just going to try to get in touch with the schools. I think I'm going to concentrate on marketing. I've written a lot of short stories recently, which have been published by a Red Penguin Press, so I'm very happy about that. But I haven't expanded. I haven't done another book in the series. I think I was going to end it with a happy ending because I brought my character Nestor full circle with his insecurities and with his father, the reunion with his father. And I think I'm going to leave it there. So I haven't really decided yet. I want to continue writing, but I think I'm finished with this series and I'd like to go on to something else, but I haven't decided yet what.
Well, that's, that's to be understood, but I'm sure that you'll come up with something. You have a vast, body of knowledge behind you. And I think that's, for a writer, I think that's what you need. You need experience and you need to have knowledge behind you. If you don't do the research, the books, I think, are very flat.
Thank
But
you.
good luck to you and happy in Florida.
Can I just quickly mention that on my website, elainedonadio.com, I have open-ended questions that are in alignment with state standards for science, social studies, and literacy. And by answering those questions, which don't really relate to my books specifically, you will have a comprehensive review of all of the science and social studies facts that you need to cover for the literacy program and the science program and the social studies program in the schools throughout the country. If anybody is still following the standards.
Well, thank you very much, Elaine, and I hope to have you back again.
Oh, thank you so much, Linda. I hope so too. Bye.
Take care.